Thank you guys for tuning into another video. Today I've got some interesting topics. We're going to talk about conservatives race baiting just as hard as the liberals do. The ADL is full of crap. UGA has a good old-fashioned book burning. And Lil Brain James is the dumbest Negro in entertainment. I'm Anthony, and this is Allow Me to Retort. Thank you guys for tuning into another video. Please remember to leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And if you don't enjoy the content, leave a comment down there telling me how you hate my stupid face. Let's just get into the first story. The LA Post has an article here. The new Starbucks CEO has admitted she doesn't like white people. You can read right there. The first thing they mention in the headline is race. There's no quotes, so this is misconstruing what she actually said. And let's just dive right into it and figure out what actually happened here. What exactly is the LA Post talking about? Because can it really be the Starbucks CEO came out and just said, I don't like white people? That's kind of what this implies. Let's figure out. First of all, the woman that they're referring to is Rosalind Brewer. She is the COO of Starbucks, the former CEO of Sam's Club. Kevin Johnson is actually the CEO of Starbucks. Here's the woman they're talking about. Well, here, Rosalind Brewer. She's the COO of Starbucks. This is the CEO of Starbucks. Also, the very quote that they're talking about comes all the way from 2015, they mention in here. So what actually happened? In 2015, before she worked for Starbucks, Rosalind mentioned that she would go to meetings sometimes and that there was problems that she saw where there wasn't enough diverse people. To me, that's already wrong right there. You can't just go into places and go into business meeting, look across the table and see that you don't like what you see and then claim that they're racist and not diverse enough. But that's exactly what Rosalind did. She said that she had a meeting with the supplier and there was nothing but white men on the other side of the table. She said this offended her, this bothered her, and so she decided that she was going to make a phone call later on and tell these people how they needed to hire more people of color and more women because there's too many white men in the room. And that in itself is wrong right there. That's bad enough. But what the LA Post has gone in here done and literally lied, saying that Rosalind Brewer is the CEO. Not only does they say it in the headline, but they also say it again wrong in the article. Schultz stepped down as CEO in 2017 but still remains the executive chairman. Starbucks finally found his replacement when they announced that Rosalind Brewer would serve as new CEO of Starbucks. False. Once again, like I just showed you on Starbucks' own website, Rosalind Brewer is COO, Chief Operating Officer. She is not CEO, which is Kevin Johnson's job. If we go over here on Facebook, we can see this article has 148,000 shares, 140,000 people spreading fake news and a blatant lie. So just don't do it. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. So be careful with the stuff that you share. The next thing I want to briefly talk about is the ADL, or the Anti-Defamation League. They have already been something I've talked about once with the whole PewDiePie scandal, but once again they're adding more symbols to their list of symbols they think inspire violence and hate, including the OK symbol and the meme Pepe the Frog. They're saying that they're gang symbols and that they inspire violence and racism. And I went through here. There's 69 pages of symbols and words and hand signs that inspire hate and violence. But I went through this whole entire thing, and on no pages did I find any reference to black gangs, to Bloods and Crips and Latin Kings. Black or brown gangs are completely out of this list of hate and violent symbols, which is ridiculous. When you want to look at symbols of hate, you need to look at the Bloods, the Crips, the Latin Kings, the Gangster Disciples, these kind of things. I mean, look at the numbers they're pulling. These gangs, this is in New York alone, these gangs are huge. And why in the list of hate symbols and violent symbols are you disregarding these gangs? It's because they don't care about actual hate and actual violence. They just care about shaming white people. In 2011, 80% of gun crimes in the United States were related to gangs. 80%, that means is a gang symbol from a black gang like the Crips or the Bloods, is 80% more likely to get me killed than a hand symbol from one of these white racists. So there's this entire list of symbols and hand signs and words that the ADL claims is racist and extremely hateful and dangerous, but they completely miss the fact that there are black people out there using gang signs and hand symbols and secret code, and they're killing a lot more people than any of these racist symbols that they're talking about. Earlier this month, October 9th, Janine Crusett went to Georgia Southern University and spoke at their first year experience. She recently wrote a book and she was touring and talking about that. It's called Make Your Home Among Strangers. It follows a Latino girl who I believe is in New York, and she just comes to an all-white school, which is privileged, and it talks about her struggling with being racially different and noticing everybody else's white privilege. So what Janine decided to do was come down to the South and tell all the good old white people how privileged they are and how they have it easy, and basically bash them on their own college campus. She went through the whole presentation without a hitch. Then she got to a Q&A section where one of the students asked, "I noticed that you made a lot of generalizations about majority of white people being privileged. What makes you believe it's okay to come to a college campus like this when we are supposed to be promoting diversity on this campus, which is what we're taught? I don't understand what the purpose of this was." Crusett was so high on her liberal power trip, she responded like this: "I came here because I was invited, and I talked about white privilege because it is a real thing that you are actually benefiting from right now, and even asking this question." So this woman comes here and somehow derives from just this girl asking her this question, "What are you talking about?" She says, "Wow, what a very white privilege thing of you to do. To sit here and ask me a question shows that you have white privilege." But I would have had the exact same question if I was in my first year experience and she come up talking about how white people are overly privileged in everything they do. I would have wanted to stand up and say, "Why do you think that? Especially not being a white woman. How do you come here from your background and tell us all that you know exactly how our lives go, and it doesn't matter what we come from or what struggles we had to deal with. We're privileged just because of our skin color"? How could she do that? And I would ask, and then are you going to tell me her response would be, just by you asking that question is your white privilege? Because that's weird. Last time I checked, you got to be white to get white privilege. And of course, her very, very stupid response got a visceral reaction from the students. After the presentation was all said and done, students went outside and proceeded to burn her book, which was, in my opinion, well deserved. Apparently nobody got violent, nobody got hurt, nobody was harassed. All that happened was a bunch of students took the books that they had and they burned them, and that's well within their First Amendment rights. Also good news is Georgia Southern said that there's nothing that they can do about it. This was well within the students' rights, and there's nothing in the school code that says they're not allowed to burn books in the fashion that they burned them. So everything here is all good. I think this is good on those students for standing up for actual freedom of speech and actually taking a chance to say, just because we're white doesn't mean we're evil. Because I guarantee you there's people who are being born into families that have raped them. There's people being born into families which are poor, living off food stamps, and they come in all colors. They're white, black, brown, yellow, it doesn't matter. There are people who are struggling with depression every day. There are white boys and girls killing themselves. There are white boys and girls going to bed hungry. There are white girls and boys watching their parents struggle to feed themselves, or watching them strung out on drugs and passed out. There are people being abused. They're all colors of all races. So to sit here and say none of that matters, your background doesn't matter, I don't care what you had to do to get here, because you're white, it was easier for you, is absolutely stupid of this woman to say. And I'm very glad they burned her book. I hope everybody else in the world burns her book and another copy is never sold. Now, my next story is about the liberals and how they sell out big time in China. I've already talked about China and the horrors of the Communist Party once, from tearing down Christian churches to shooting protesters at point blank to banning Winnie the Pooh because he looks too much like their president. China just keeps on giving, and recently the NBA stepped in a fresh pile of China. Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong. A tweet was posted by Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey. he was supporting the protest that freedom in Hong Kong. Basically, Hong Kong is going through this problem where they were used to be free, and they're slowly progressing into a plan where they will become part of communist China. China has decided that they want to accelerate that plan, and they've started extraditing Hong Kong citizens who have spoke out against it in political ways or journalism ways. They've started prosecuting them and extraditing them and holding them as prisoners in China just for saying that, wait a minute, maybe we should think about this. And so that's basically what started the protest. That's what's got everything up in a roar. This tweet from Daryl has started an absolute poo storm. China canceled all kind of events. They banned the NBA and basketball like overnight, even though Twitter's banned in China. That's funny, right? This guy makes a tweet, Twitter's banned in China, the people high up see it, and now the NBA is in trouble. Clearly, some of the higher ups talked to Maury, and him and two players from the Houston Rockets stupidly apologized in what's probably the most un-American crap I've seen since Obama let North Korea bully us into shutting down movie theaters and not showing that stupid movie, The Dictator or whatever it's called. Thought I forgot about that. Not at all. And remember, the NBA yanked an all-star game out of Charlotte, North Carolina because they thought it was intolerant that they had a bathroom law that kept men and women from using the same bathroom. However, China has the same law, and China also has tons of human rights violations. They've carried out detention, torture, mistreatment. They're harassing Muslims and Turkish in the northwest regions of the country, among other things. So tell me, how do you think China feels about the trannies? I'll tell you, they aren't favorable of them. But yet, the NBA right here in the United States will pull a game out of Charlotte, North Carolina because we have a bathroom law that's probably there to protect women and children. But over there in China, where women and children and men are being shot and pepper sprayed and beaten for disagreeing with the Chinese government, the NBA is going to go back and say, oh, we misspoke, sorry about that. It's because liberals are cowards and they don't fear God, they fear losing that revenue stream. And it's a shame that people are being trampled, arrested, shot, beat, and jailed, and Daryl Morey is going to overlook all of it so he can buy another Mercedes. Lil Brain James recently commented on Daryl Morey saying, I don't want to get into a word fight or a feud with Daryl, but I believe he wasn't educated on the situation at hand when he spoke, and so many people could have been harmed, not only financially, but physically and emotionally and spiritually. LeBron James, you're freaking idiot. People are already being hurt physically and emotionally and spiritually. So the only thing left to talk about is financially. So when you tell me you don't think Daryl Morey was thinking about everybody in the situation, that he was being selfish when he spoke, there are literally people who are already being hurt over there who he was speaking against, that kind of thing. You come over here and you try to tie it all in. People could have been hurt physically and spiritually and emotionally. That's already happening, brother. The only thing that's new is you're about to get your pocketbook hurt. So once again, when it comes to LeBron James, I like to say,
shut up and dribble.
China loves this. China wants to be able to threaten people with those finances so they can go over and execute all kind of tragedies and atrocities in the name of communism. And LeBron James here, an American citizen, a privileged man, and he's over there stomping and stepping on the freedoms of these people over there in China who can't do any of the things that he's doing. They can't go out and criticize the government like he criticizes our government. They can't go out there and have fun and say whatever they want to and live the life that they want to because they're under the Communist Party rule of almost a dictatorship. But LeBron James taking all of that for granted because he wants a bigger check. He's an absolute. I'm Anthony, and this is Allow Me to Retort.